Okay, here we are. It is Monday. It's a little after 8 p.m. Thanks for joining me. We have a major winter storm now on the way for much of the upper Midwest, including Minnesota, western Wisconsin, northern Iowa. This storm is we still don't have a good grasp on it, so anything could happen. And I just want you to keep that in mind. Let's talk about it. Let's get right to it. Okay, here's what we got. This is Twin Cities radar now, and look at this. We've got snow. What you see in blue, that's snow. But what you see in pink and kind of these reddish colors, that's a mix. So already this storm starting off as just a whole array of precipitation across southern Minnesota. And I think that's going to be the case here for the rest of the night. I don't think that this shield of precipitation is going to make it north into the Twin Cities tonight. If it does, it'll only do it for just a short period of time, I think. I think the bulk of the precipitation this evening and into some of the overnight hours will be right down here. So that'd be the Mankato, Rochester, Owatonna areas. But no doubt, quite an impressive precipitation summary right now on radar. Okay, hey, let's get to the snow potential map. Of course, you guys have seen this. Showed it to you here on earlier today, and we even had it yesterday. It hasn't changed much since yesterday, but look at this thing in the bullseye of snow out in Sioux Falls in southwestern Minnesota. But even in the Twin Cities, a good solid 6 to 10 inches of snow, and then ice just as you head south of the Twin Cities, as you get down into the Rochester area and Albert Lee on east and northeast to Eau Claire. This area might shift to the north and back to the west a little bit. So we'll see if that ice gets back into the Twin Cities. Right now, I'm not expecting much ice in the cities, but it could. And then, of course, that means that these snow bands would probably shift even a little bit further north. So just keep that in mind. You know, model guidance has shown that those snow bands to be, some model guidances, I should say, have shown the snow bands to be pushed further north than what you're seeing on Novak Weather's 48-hour potential snow map. So let's just keep that in mind. By the way, thank you, Welch Village. My friends over at Welch Village, my favorite place to ski, certainly here in southern Minnesota. So thank you, Welch. They're expecting snow there too. They already have plenty of snow on the ground there at Welch Village. Thank you, Peter, and your team over at Welch Village for sponsoring this weather briefing. Look at this beautiful storm system wrapping up now. It's actually sitting back in Colorado. This is the water vapor imagery out of from outer space, and just a beautiful looking storm system. Has some dry air is already starting to, we call this a dry slide. It's starting to surge north into Kansas, and eventually that dry slide, I think, or at least some dry air, is going to make it into southern Minnesota. That's one of the reasons why we're expecting periods of precipitation here over the next 48 hours. But this storm system still has a long ways to go before it even makes it here, as it's spinning over Colorado and slowly but surely going to make its way east and northeast towards northern Iowa. And the track of that storm is actually going to be critical. Here it is. This is the real energy. The energy is the heart of the energy of this storm is still sitting back over Colorado, and you can already see waves of precipitation coming up north and east into Minnesota now on the infrared satellite imagery. And you can also see storms now blowing up over the central portion of the U.S. So lots of energy with the system, a lot of moisture with this system, and that moisture is being sent north into the upper Midwest, or at least into southern Minnesota as we speak. Here it is. Some of this moisture here over southern Minnesota not reaching the ground, but where it is reaching the ground, it's freezing, because look at the temperatures. 26 in Rochester right now, 22. Redwood Falls, 26 in the cities as we zoom in. And by the way, I looked at some of the traffic cameras here over extreme southern Minnesota down by I-90. It is snowing in many areas, so 27 in Albert Lee. So if you're not getting snow and you're getting any liquid right now, it's freezing in southern Minnesota. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case here for the rest of the night. So be ready for really slick conditions, especially south of the Twin Cities metro as we head into tomorrow morning. And then eventually that surge of moisture makes it up into the cities. One of the big reasons for that is look at the River of Air at 30 to 35,000 feet. This is the jet stream. And as we go into, this would be tomorrow afternoon now, look at this jet streak located over eastern Iowa and western Illinois. Winds of about 130 knots poking north into extreme southeastern Minnesota. And of course, much of southern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin will be on the left front quad and on the nose of that jet streak. Hence the reason why we're going to get lift, significant lift in the atmosphere, which means precipitation. Here's the problem. The storm sits and spins. This is, as we head into Thursday morning, the storm is still spinning over northeastern Iowa. So we could have snow. Now, it may not be heavy, but certainly periodic bouts of light, maybe even moderate snow through, well, into tomorrow, and then through Wednesday, maybe even lingering into Thursday morning. This storm system is something that is just going to last for a long time, and I think it's going to cause problems for several days here with slick conditions. Here's your winds at 500 millibars. So this is at about 20 to 25,000 feet. And I wanted to show you what happens tomorrow morning because that's when things really get cranking in the Twin Cities metro. At 20,000 feet, we have winds at about 70 to 80 knots surging north right into southeastern Minnesota. And as these winds start to pinwheel back into southern and southwestern Minnesota, that's where you get some significant lift. So I think tomorrow morning, sometime around 9, 10 a.m. and then lasting into the early afternoon, I think the Twin Cities could get a real heavy burst of snow and maybe even perhaps some ice, which of course would cut down snow totals. But that's a real energetic system tomorrow morning. And then look at that. The system just sits and spins. This is the NAM 3K computer model guidance. Just sits and spins over southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, even as we get into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So no doubt, we're going to likely be dealing with spits of rain, sleet, freezing rain, snow through tomorrow and then lasting into Wednesday and maybe even into Thursday morning. Here is your temperature profile at about 5,000 feet. And you can clearly see our big problem here. This is the reason why I'm worried about ice over southeastern Minnesota, because temperatures at 5,000 feet are above freezing. So, and you have to, it's not until you get to the Twin Cities metro when temperatures are near or below freezing. So in theory, that would put the rain snow line somewhere in this location. And of course, here's the Twin Cities metro. So we're worried about a mixture even getting into the metro. But right now, I think for the most part, it's going to stay snow in the Twin Cities. And then no doubt as we head into later Tuesday night and then Wednesday, our atmosphere, the profile becomes more than cold enough to support snow over pretty much all of southern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. But yeah, because it's going to be a little bit warmer in the lower layers of our atmosphere, especially over southeastern Minnesota, that's the reason why we're worried about a mixture and some ice. And there it is. It's the future radar, by the way. I'm going to rewind it here. Here it is for 10 and 11 o'clock tonight. Look at this, a narrow band, but a significant band of snow and ice over southern and southeastern Minnesota. Doesn't quite make it to the Twin Cities metro, maybe the southern metro. And then here comes that surge, a real nice surge of energy as we get into the 18 Zulu hours. That's right about noon or 1 o'clock. There comes your real heavy snow, maybe at an inch to inch and a half per hour through the metro area. And then, yes, as I had mentioned, that storm sits and spins, and we have snow. This is even as of midnight on Wednesday. We still have light snow, flurries, maybe even some moderate snow lingering over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. The European computer model guidance, and here it is. And let's rewind this here. This is a potential snow map from the Euro. Look at how it paints 10 to 15 inches of snow over much of southern and western Minnesota by the time we get to Thursday noon. And then, of course, where you get that rain snow line over right near Rochester here, that's where you get that sharp cutoff between who gets the snow and who doesn't. Portions of extreme southeastern Minnesota may hardly get even an inch or two of snow out of this. Now, here's the problem. This is the NAM now computer model guidance. This is hot off the press. This is came down as of 7 p.m. this evening, so I'm still getting a chance to look at it now too. But look at how it has pushed the snow band about 50 to 100 miles further north and northwest, and that would produce the axis of heavy snow going through St. Cloud. Now, I'm not quite buying into this solution yet, but let it be known that some of the short-term guidances are pushing that snow band further northwest, hence the reason why we are pulling out our hair here at Novak Weather. And look at this. the NAM, the latest NAM 3K doesn't even give much snow at all for the Rochester area. Again, I'm not quite buying into this, but I wanted to show you this because this is what we're dealing with right now with these computer model guidances and how they shift snow bands and ice bands around with each model run. Here's one thing that appears for certain. Ice is going to be an issue over much of southern and southeastern Minnesota, especially from about the southern Twin Cities metro on southeast through Rochester to the Minnesota-Iowa border. We could be talking about some areas of a quarter to a half inch thick of ice in some of these areas. Now, hopefully we can warm up above 32 degrees tomorrow, which I think is going to happen down in southeastern Minnesota. But that is one of the reasons why we are worried about ice there, especially in the southeastern sections of Minnesota and portions of western Wisconsin and northern Iowa. All right. Sorry, I know this was a long video. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was something unique. I hope you learned from this video. Long story short, to summarize it all, it is going to be a mess for the next 48 to 72 hours across much about the southern half of Minnesota and a good chunk of Wisconsin and northern Iowa. All right, everybody, take care. I'm sure we'll talk tomorrow.